Our first chance to talk to Ohio State's quarterbacks this spring. Buckeye Talk coming to you from the Woody Hayes Athletic Center. I'm Nathan Baird from cleveland.com, along with Doug Lesmerises and Stephen Means. One of the guys who was a big attraction today was Kyle McCord for obvious reasons. Looking back a year, we thought this was going to be a big spring competition again, potentially for him, when Quinn Ewers was still going to be here, and there was going to be a big battle to be the backup, and potentially whoever didn't win that job was going to leave. And then the ground shifted beneath our feet a little bit. C.J. Stroud is obviously entrenched as the starting quarterback, and now Kyle McCord is the clear backup and the presumptive starter next year. And he was talking today about how he got a little bit amused, I think, last year when everyone just assumed he was going to transfer, especially as everything played out with Quinn Ewers. And now he's able to say he came up after the Michigan game with sort of a different clarity about this being a pretty good place to be for the next couple years. And that's sort of the position he's in now, having to, I don't think you'd call it sacrificing necessarily, but waiting another year as the backup before potentially taking over next year with great reward as Ohio State's starting quarterback. Doug, as you've watched this play out, does it surprise you at all that Kyle McCord is still here, or is this really the thing that probably does make the most sense for him in the long run, that even if you have to take this seat, unless something goes wrong with C.J. Stroud and you have to step in, as he did last year against Akron, that you either have to sit out a year or that you have this chance to be Ohio State starting quarterback next year, and that's worth the wait?
So, I mean, two of the other guys left. So we thought not everybody was going to stay. We were right. So I don't know if people are amused by transfer talk. Jack Miller and Quinn Ewers left. So he didn't. If Quinn Ewers was still here, I think he may have left. So it's like, well, we don't think all these guys are going to stick around, and we were right. So for him to wind up sitting 2 years and then start next year, which looks like the plan now, is completely normal. The other thing, everything happened around Kyle McCord to now make the idea of him transferring amusing. The other two guys left, and the guy in front of him looks like a surefire first-round NFL pick after this year. So the idea of what if CJ stays for his fourth year? It's like, what are you talking about? So everything, the pathway got cleared by a machete, and it's like, well, then why would you leave? So good for him that it worked out perfectly for Kyle McCord. At this point, it would be insane to leave. But if one of those other things hadn't happened, then it would be a much more complicated situation for him. It's not complicated now, as you just explained.
Yeah, well, the perfect situation would have been if he'd come in as a true freshman and won the job. I guess that would have been the truly perfect situation. But I think what has helped him, too, a little bit, is coming in and seeing exactly how good C.J. Stroud is and the way C.J. Stroud performed last year. And now you don't necessarily have to worry that he's going to be around for a fourth year, because that does not seem to be on the table. He looks right now like maybe the first quarterback off the table next year in the NFL draft. There's definitely people out there saying that right now. So, Stephen, in a lot of ways, this is a very natural progression that Kyle McCord is going to make into being the third-year starter. I know that players of his caliber often don't wait until their third year to get their chance to be the full-time starter, but the situation that he chose to come into at Ohio State, this was a very plausible way for it to have played out. Nothing out of the ordinary is happening here necessarily.
And he knew that. He knew coming in that I'm going to compete to be the starter as a true freshman, and if that doesn't happen, depending on how that quarterback who beats me plays, I might not see the field again until my junior year or redshirt sophomore year, whatever way you want to call it. But Ohio State's seen successful quarterbacks in that route too. Dwayne Haskins didn't get on the field until his third year, and he threw 50 touchdown passes on his way to New York and being a first-round draft pick. So it's not like Ryan Day can't sell that pitch to Kyle McCord, who was a much higher-rated recruit than Dwayne Haskins was and has just as strong of an arm. So that's probably going to play a role in this as well. But like you guys said, somebody was going to get clarity and end up being the number 2 guy here, whether it was going to be Quinn Ewers, whether it was going to be Jack Miller, or it was going to be Kyle McCord. 2 of those 3 were going to leave, and the other one was going to be the backup quarterback in 2022. And that's where we are now, while Devin Brown is clearly the number 3, and he knows that.
The truly important thing for Kyle McCord now, or the story around Kyle McCord, is how prepared is he the next time an Akron situation pops up where he has to start for this team, or he has to go in and play at a crucial juncture of an important game against a good team and try to help Ohio State win that game. He said that he felt the game slow down, all those things that second-year players say. But one thing I thought was important was he talked about how crucial the Rose Bowl practices were, getting those extra 15 practices, and for a chunk of those, C.J. Stroud was in New York doing Heisman stuff, so he was running with the ones. He was the number 1 quarterback on Ohio State's not Ohio State's roster, but in Ohio State's building for those few days. And it was just a few days, but I think just those little experiences are building up maybe to something for him when it is his time to be that guy again. And doing the Akron experience, if it comes up again, now he knows what that feels like and can better prepare for it as not a true freshman with the poise and the perspective of a second-year guy. A lot more about the quarterbacks coming up on Buckeye Talk, and get the text 614-350-3315.